the series now getting a fresh run on Prime is called The Nazis: A Warning from History. Both the documentary
Office for Academic Culture and Community. The move comes as the Trump administration pressures the university, even threatening its accreditation over diversity policies. And Black Women's Equal Pay Day 2025, which was July 10th, highlights the wage gap, with Black women earning just 66 cents to a white man's dollar. Advocates call for long-term policy fixes to close the $1 million lifetime earnings gap. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I cannot hear anyone in the studio, and I certainly can't hear my very special guest, so I'm going to ad-lib as best I possibly can until I can hear. This has been a fairly extraordinary week of activity in our nation. The tragic loss of life with people in Texas is something particularly tragic that all Americans are turning their prayerful and spiritual attention to. There are those who would like to invoke the politics into this moment, but it's just not ringing against the backdrop of the loss of life. And so our prayers continue to go out to the people of Texas and to the people of our nation as our government points its fingers at each other, from the state to the federal to the state. And the reflection that The transition process between presidents of the United States require care. It requires the kind of compassion to service. It being a Democratic administration or a Republican administration, the transition process does matter. And when a president takes a sledgehammer to the process, running through every federal agency with the Department of Government Efficiency, I am more convinced than ever that in that moment, it's not about Democrat versus Republican. It's about all of the people who will be caught in between if, in fact, both political parties are not cooperating. What we see in this hour, in this moment, is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which always prepositions itself in the event of a natural disaster, is underfunded, understaffed, ill-prepared, and its leadership is missing in the state of Texas. And so the absence of that leadership in Washington and in Texas left the response time of the federal government's involvement and certainly the recovery time for millions of hundreds, I should say, of people in Texas without the coverage of the people's government. And that is particularly troubling at this hour. And so our families offer their prayers, but our prayers may not be enough. In this particular case, the engagement of the American people demanding accountability from the federal government and from the states actually matters in this process. Actually closest to the people, just like the government in Texas is closest to the people. They actually stand in a position with the federal government to back up the efforts of the states to ensure that when the states have these major national disasters, there is a government entity prepared to step in and do what is right for the people. In this particular case, both federal and state government have thrown their hands because the ideological priorities are prioritized over the needs of the people. Today, in our first hour on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, a very special guest is Diallo Brooks. Diallo, with over 25 years of experience in social justice and civil rights, has been a pivotal figure in promoting policies that foster safe, healthy, and thriving communities. He currently serves as the founder and CEO of Civic Vision Strategies. Strategic consulting firm and empowering organizations to transform the leadership and he was the former senior equity coach of Stop the nation's chemical pollution. Diallo bridged the gap between national policymakers and grassroots
How you doing, Jesse? Can you hear me?
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time. Whenever news breaks, while we're on the air, it's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580. And we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind: to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my two sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-687-7979. That's 800-687-7979. 800-687-7979.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. I do not consider myself a fan of Sean Puffy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy Love, Brother Love Combs. But one doesn't have to be a fan to acknowledge a simple truth about his recent jury trial. I think the primary reason he was acquitted of those sex trafficking and RICO charges is because he was overcharged in the first place. Mine is not to opine on his guilt or innocence on any of the charges the feds brought against him. But I predicted months ago that he would beat the most serious charges because, as usual, prosecutors have a really bad habit of overcharging black men. Dave Chappelle said it best: Puffy is in a RICO case all by himself, man. Hilarious and arresting at the same time. When prosecutors put a target on the backs of black men, they throw everything at them just to see what sticks. And too often, just like in the Puffy case at the very end, they move to dismiss some of the charges and then double down on the ones they think they can win. It's racist and it's wrong, and somebody ought to say so. I think I just did. Not for the benefit of Puffy, but on behalf of all the other black men who have been and sadly will be woefully overcharged in the future. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I'm just being told by at least one of our Facebook friends that there is no audio, just a continuous static sound. And I just want to make sure that if you can hear me, then we are talking to everyone. And I just want to make sure that we are talking to a live audience. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest in this hour is Diallo Brooks. Diallo, how are you today? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Diallo, thank you very much for being here. I do apologize for the technical difficulty which we are trying to resolve. Diallo, this is Let's Talk About It Friday, and we'll talk in the second hour with Gina Towns on her weekly series on reflectivity. But tell me what's going on. What are you hearing in Washington about the dysfunctionality of the government?
Well, where do I start? I mean, you look at the massive cuts that have already happened within this government and all of the agencies and many of the agencies, and how that's impacting policy, public policy, but also the delivery of public good to our communities throughout the country. It's funny because this is a small thing. I live in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of federal parks in our city. Driving through the federal parks, you don't see the grass is not cut. Just something small like that is just indicative of where this government is, where it used to be, beautiful parks with, the grass was maintained, the properties were maintained. You take that and you overlay that on all of the other pieces of government that we see. And then in particular, you look at the most recent, the big beautiful bill, which we call the big ugly bill that was passed. There's a lot of provisions even beyond kind of the Medicaid conversation that was had around what's happening with schools and education within that bill as well, and how there's cuts within the education space, which are going to impact Black and Brown students the most, as it looks at the federal aid to students, as it looks to how much aid that folks can actually get, and also school vouchers as well that they're implementing within those bills, which are going to benefit affluent folks. So there's a lot going on the federal level. There's a lot of dysfunction. We see how that's impacted what's happened in Texas and in many other places with the floods that we see happening as well. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done to really push back and call out this administration and this government for not meeting the responsibility of the people.
You obviously have some concerns about the condition and state of education and what the Department of Government Efficiency has done as we prepare for the fall semester of the American people and America's students. Share with us, Diallo, some of your concerns.
Well, my concerns is that there won't be the civil rights enforcement that our schools are traditionally used to seeing. That's one piece where there's civil rights concerns within school buildings, within school districts. We won't see the federal government responding and acting to help remedy those situations that may occur around the country. But also outside of this, the cuts that we've seen within the Department of Education, what I was mentioning before was the provisions that are in the bill that was just passed as well that will undermine education, particularly for Black and Brown students. And if you look at what's happening around student loans, there's a cap on how much people can actually borrow, which then either pushes people into the private markets that don't have the same protections, but also limits the ability for low-income students to get the resources they need for an increasingly expensive college education. And there's caps that are put on throughout your college career. So if you're going to matriculate into graduate school, if you want to get a doctorate or become a doctor as well, you won't have the resources if you're lower income to be able to achieve that without going into the private market because there's caps put on how much you can actually borrow from the federal government.
Diallo, one of my concerns, and I think I can finally hear you. I'm so grateful for all of our technical staff and certainly our executive producer for making that possible. I just need to make sure from our friends on social media that my voice is actually coming through. And I can see Barbara Jean is now saying it sounds great on our end. And that is just the confirmation that I need. Diallo, let me ask you a question about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Clarence Thomas, since his appointment to the court, has argued that the act itself is deficient, that it in fact practices the very kind and forms of racism and the gerrymandering, district drawing, both federally and state, that it was designed to prohibit. He wants the court to take up the matter before the primaries in the next midterm cycle, hence suggesting that every African American congressional district, state legislative district, Hispanic districts that are drawn around the country could very well end up in some court somewhere arguing for their legitimacy. Your concerns?
The tremendous concerns. They've already taken a scalpel to the Voting Rights Act as we knew it before, and now they want to continue to do that work in this Supreme Court. It just really it speaks to the kind of politicization of the Supreme Court and the federal courts, where they're not calling balls and strikes. They're looking to legislate from the bench, something that you've heard conservatives say for a long time, that liberals were legislating from the bench. But in reality, we see who is legislating from the bench. To have a Supreme Court justice say that they want to take up that particular issue and undermine voting rights in this country and voting protections in this country is troubling. And it's basically an attack. And to have it happen before the upcoming elections, the upcoming midterm elections, is equally problematic. And it just shows that they're on a full-fledged attempt to dismantle the protections that the civil rights movement had fought for in this country. They're dismantling all of these different pieces that folks marched for, that your father marched for, that folks bled for, that folks died for. And it's something that should trouble all Americans, that we should stand up, because our democracy, our progress as a country, as a nation, as a standard bearer in the world, is now being undermined by this administration, and actually very short term.
My sense is that voting rights from 1965 to the present has largely expanded the electorate. African Americans, Hispanics, women, progressives, certainly since the 26th Amendment to the Constitution, allowing 18-year-olds to vote, that the electorate itself is far more diverse than it was in 1965. But that diversity does not necessarily lend itself to progressive voices in the Congress of the United States. I want to be clear. What the Voting Rights Act of 1965 essentially did was desegregate Congress. That institution needed to be desegregated, all white men. And we have desegregated it with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 desegregated state legislatures around the country. State legislatures, usually in some rural part of the state, even though we have these large municipal cities in some of these states, like Detroit in Michigan, like Chicago in Illinois, like Atlanta in the state of Georgia. But many outlier areas are rural. And so to desegregate state legislatures also requires the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Your thoughts on the resegregation of state legislatures and possibly the resegregation of the Congress of the United States?
That's very troubling. It's a reality that we're dealing with, but it's also something that the conservatives have long wanted. They've said that they want less participation from the broader population, right? And particularly Black and brown communities, low income communities. They want less participation. because with less participation, it allows them to pass the laws that they want to pass without any pushback, to do all of the things and actually pillage our government and our communities of resources, just like they're pillaging resources from around the world. They're doing it within this country, and it allows them to do that. The less voices of opposition, the less voices of concern from our communities that are present in those bodies of government, the less likely we have any control or power of how our government functions and operates. But like I said, conservatives have stated this plainly over the years that they don't want everybody to participate. And this should be a red flag to all of us as Americans, not just Black and brown folks, but all of us, because this experiment of democracy has been an experiment toward progress. Now we're hitting a phase of regression. We're moving backwards. We're moving toward times where, we didn't see women voting. We didn't see Black folks voting. We didn't see poor people voting for the most part. And this government at this particular moment, those that are in charge of our government are pulling us backwards. The American experiment is about growth. It's about progress. Progressivism is about progress, moving forward, getting better with time, not moving backwards. And so we all have to stand up and push back against this. The midterms are coming up. We have to make our voices heard, no matter what obstacles exist. We can't allow this country to move backwards, because backwards is not better for this country. It's not better for all of the Americans that are a part of this country, except for the rich and wealthy.
Diallo, we have about 4 minutes before the break. Your thoughts on the occupation of American cities by the President of the United States, with the National Guard in Los Angeles, with nearly $130 billion budget that now funds the Department of Immigration and Customs at a higher rate than it funds the entire Department of Justice. Your thoughts on the spread of the National Guard, the very likely spread of the National Guard to major American cities all over the United States?
Well, we should all be concerned about the National Guard moving into their cities, particularly without even local leaders calling for those folks to come in because there's some unrest that's happening. The only unrest that's happening is actually stimulated by this administration, stimulated by the ICE attacks, by going in and disrupting graduations, by going into courthouses and snatching folks up from communities, from Home Depot lots. There's not a targeted approach to say they wanted to talk about, picking up criminals, criminal immigrants. They're not focusing on that. They're just doing a wide net, and it's causing hysteria within communities. And then on the back of that, they want to bring in the National Guard to create a artificial crisis in this country. It's a crisis that didn't exist before, that they're manufacturing. It takes also attention away from the policies and the decisions that this government is making at this particular moment as well, because they're manufacturing these crises, they're manufacturing conflict. And what I see is us moving toward a society where we have martial law. And if you look at those places around the world that we see that, they're incredibly dysfunctional. They're not the type of government, they're not the type of country that we want to see ourselves. So we shouldn't be moving ourselves backwards. We have to stand up, elevate our voices, and move forward.
Diallo, we have about 15 seconds. Do you see this country moving in the direction of the invocation of the Insurrection Act?
I see it, and I hope it doesn't happen.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In this hour, my very special guest is none other than Diallo Brooks. Diallo is a strategic consultant who works with a number of organizations throughout our country. When you come forward, I'm going to ask him more about his organization and the kinds of services that he provides for organizations, for cities, for municipalities, for civic organizations, for political organizations, and educational institutions. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, Diallo Brooks will be our guest.
The biggest names. The best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is signing an executive order to protect immigrant communities during federal immigration raids.
The irony that I am going to sign an executive directive to help the city family understand how to protect the workforce and Angelenos from our federal government.
Bass is also seeking information on where current detainees are being held. Former President Obama is in New Jersey tonight for a Democratic fundraiser, his first since the 2024 election. The event is hosted by Governor Phil Murphy and his wife, with DNC Chair Ken Martin and others also attending. And rapper Kanye West is facing new claims of sexual battery and sex trafficking from his former assistant, Lauren Pisciata. She says he fired her in 2023 after she refused his advances. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tennis legend Venus Williams, who turned 45 last month, was given a wildcard invitation to play in the D.C. Open in Washington, D.C. The tournament, which kicks off July 21st, is the first event for Venus since she played in the Miami Open in 2024. Major props for Venus for still having the passion to play and for giving organizers of the D.C. Open an attendance boost. Having Venus on the lineup is certain to bring out more fans. Venus, who turned pro at age 14 in 1994, has won 7 Grand Slam titles in her legendary career. The Dodgers will try to snap their 6-game losing streak tonight at San Francisco. The Angels are at home tonight against Arizona. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds. 60 minutes of sports chatter with some flavor. Take this number down so you can join the conversation. 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah, yeah.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey man, hey, what's up? What's that station you listening to? Oh man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio, KBLA 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA AM. 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education to know. Ooh, yeah. 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. If you like me, oh, KBLA 1580 Talk Radio. Progressive.
Attorney advertising. advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. show. This is Let's Talk About It Friday. On second Fridays, our contributor will be Diallo Brooks. Diallo is the Chief Executive Officer of Civic Vision Strategies, an organization that empowers leaders, engages communities, and transforms futures. Diallo, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. show.
Thank you, Jesse.
Diallo, tell us about your new venture and your company.
Yeah, so I started Civic Vision Strategies to really support whether it be grassroots organizations, communities, individuals, government leaders as well. Support them around developing their leadership abilities, but also around developing their strategies to meet this moment. To do the organizing work to make sure that they're bridging the gap between community and policy, that they're making sure that they're strategically thinking about the programs that they implement within their organizations, and also just some strategic leadership coaching as well for individuals to meet this moment. This is a very challenging time. We're in a new moment within our history that is pretty unprecedented, and organizations, leaders on all levels need support to make sure that they're implementing their strategies in ways that are impactful. And I have over 25 years of experience doing that. I've worked with elected officials. I've worked within government. I've worked within philanthropy. I've worked on the civic engagement front and the political front as well, navigating and working with communities as well. I will always be community-centered, making sure that the community voice is uplifted. And I like to see that in all of our organizations, all of our structures, even our government as well, to make sure that there's connection there.
How is it that our listeners can engage directly with you in better understanding the role that your company plays and the assistance that you can provide?
Sure. So folks can visit www.civicvisionstrategies.com. That's the website. It'll give you more information about me, my background, and the work that we do. And then also some of the places that I've provided support for as well. And you can also find Civic Vision Strategies both on Facebook and on Instagram under Civic Vision Strategies as well. Both of those are the same name. And you can also email me, Diallo, Diallo, at civicvisionstrategies.com. Those are all the places that folks can connect.
I appreciate that, DL. Listen, I want to pivot here for a second and shift gears to the political parties. I was born March 11th, 1965. Maybe 18 years later, I became a registered voter. I found myself situated with like interests in the Democratic Party and had voted Democratic since I was 18 years old and could vote. Against the backdrop of all of the history of the Democratic Party from 1793 to the present, I must admit, it is an uncomfortable relationship to be in the party of slavery, to be in the party of Thomas Jefferson, to be in the party of agricultural interests and slave labor. But I've come to appreciate through history, over time, our movement actually won over the Democratic Party. We ran those types out of the Democratic Party into the Republican Party, I think in the 30s, because Daddy King in 1854, Martin Luther King's father and others, out of loyalty to Lincoln, joined the Party of Lincoln, which was founded in Ripon, Wisconsin in 1854. Now, here we are in 2025, and a large generation of young voters showed up in the New York Democratic primary, and they looked at the Democratic Party and what the party was offering, and they chose Mamdani as the leader of the Democratic Party. There is nothing about what Mamdani stands for that would have been acceptable in the 1793 Democratic Party. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But here we have maybe a progressive candidate who's ever run for mayor of a major city, who calls himself a democratic socialist, who believes in affordability, who believes in health care for all, the right to vote for all, and is trying his best to wipe out many of the social ills that one would argue Christians should be fighting for every day of their existence. My question for you is, do you see a movement of young people beyond the parties to actually fighting for their authentic selves, the authentic beliefs of what can make the world a better place?
I do. I think there has been for a while undercurrent of energy from young people. We all know from our history that young people are actually the ones that move the needle, that have moved movements. The civil rights movement was a movement of young people. And I think in this moment in time, and actually even what we saw during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter kind of movement, it was young people that were pushing the party, pushing socially to really change the way we do business. And I think young people are there in pockets, and I think they're organizing, they're having strategic conversations, and they're elevating their voices. They're not connected to the old ways of the party. They're not connected to the party of 20 years ago and falling in line in that way. They are really pushing for the type of change that they want to see that's going to make their lives better, that are going to make future generations' lives better. And I think it's critically important for the Democratic Party to listen and not get stuck in the old ways of doing business. One of the things I loved about you when you were in Congress through your elected life, you were pushing the envelope on issues that really resonated with people, with community, because you were in touch with community, right? And young people of today are trying to push this party to do that as well, because there's going to be a disenfranchisement of those folks. The party is going to lose voters if the party doesn't shift to embrace those voices and not do it just in superficial ways, but doing it in real ways. And that doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. There's different perspectives from different generations. That's okay. But we have to have the healthy dialogue within the Democratic Party and a healthy place where folks can see themselves as viable parts of the party, not just folks that just show up on election day to elect the folks that the party leadership has designated as next in line. If we wait for the next in line, we will never get the best of us. We'll never have the energy, the drive, and the focus to create the change we need within our communities. And we saw that in this past election. We saw Donald Trump as a result of the apathy within our party. And it's incumbent upon us to reach back, to connect with folks in authentic ways, voices. And young people have the energy, they have the vision. And as we get older, I'm a little bit younger than you, but not much. It is incumbent upon us to support young people and help them to have the platform and have strategic dialogue with them about what their vision of the future looks like and how we can work together to accomplish that.
When we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, I want to continue this part of our final segment with Diallo Brooks, in part because Democrats are struggling to endorse and embrace Mamdani. And I'm wondering if that is a national trend that we may see in the Democratic Party that could cost us the election in 2026. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Diallo Brooks. When we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let K. Michelle's Kitchen Catering bring your world of flavors to your next event. For all occasions, from casual brunches to office lunches, weddings, and glamour affairs, call us today at 310-819-6213 or go to kmichellekitchencatering.com or on Instagram at kmichelles_kitchen catering or Facebook at K. Michelle's Kitchen Catering. We look forward to cooking for you soon. Call 310-819-6213. 310-819-6213. It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I want to thank our very special guest, Diallo Brooks, for being with us. Diallo, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you, Jesse.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank our faithful listeners who we rely upon at the show to make sure our sound sounds good, to make sure that we are technologically communicating, and that we have decent shows and fantastic guests. So I want to thank all of you for participating, for giving us in real time any problems that they may lean or hear on their ends. I do have a question that I want to raise with you, Diallo, and then, of course, leave you with time at the end for a word of hope. The Hill today writes, the Democratic Party's credibility with voters has plummeted even further since the 2024 election, raising alarm bells as the party looks to rebuild ahead of the midterms and the next presidential election, according to a poll obtained by The Hill. The poll conducted between May and June by Unite the Country, a Democratic super PAC, showed voters perceived the Democratic Party as out of touch, woke, and weak. By the way, any attack on woke and weak, this poll sounds like it came from something tied to Rahm Emanuel. Now that I'm seeing this language here, he really attacks it. The party has seen its support erode, with white men, Hispanic men, and working class voters across the board, with approval ratings sitting below 35% across those demographics. And enthusiasm within the party continues to wane in the wake of the 2024, the poll revealed. Your thoughts that I'm reading this poll from The Hill, and it just seems like this is a poll sponsored by blue dog type Democrats. Your thoughts on the poll.
So my thoughts on this is that we've had this conversation before. There was a lot of conversation that we've lost elections because we're moving too far to the left, that there's this leftist kind of movement that is pulling us away. The Democratic Party has a communications problem. It has a problem doing the work of sitting down and being in community with folks in a way that authentically brings them to the table to have conversations about the real kitchen table issues that folks are concerned about. Those kitchen table issues are the same kitchen table issues that the young people we just talked about in the last segment care about. They want healthy, thriving communities where they're able to have access to meaningful jobs, that they have access to health care, that they have access to clean and healthy environments. All of us want that. The Democratic Party has to spend less time on just sending out fundraising emails to folks, because I get a lot of them every day, and spend really much more time in connecting with community. People respond to authentic voices. There was a reason why folks connected to Obama, because there was behind him was this authentic voice that he actually cared about the lived experiences of the folks. And he had his own lived experiences. Oftentimes, our party has drifted away from that and got into this bureaucratic motion of like, this is the way we have to do things, without really connecting to people. And so I think it's a misnomer to think that folks are leaving the party because of woke. Folks are leaving the party because we're moving too far to the left. Folks are not engaging because we're not engaging folks on the ground with real conversations outside of election cycles. New concept. Talk to people when you're not just asking for their vote, when you're really trying to find out what their real concerns are, building real authentic relationships, and doing what's necessary to tailor your policies to connect with those folks' concerns, and showing how the Democratic Party is a solution to those problems versus just the status quo. And we've missed the mark on that as a party. We've missed the mark for a number of years, and it's time to reinvest in that energy.
Should there be another viable party?
I mean, I've always thought that the two-party system over time is going to be really problematic to this country because it really puts you into boxes that most folks don't always fit into. And I think there needs to be always some conversations about third parties and how we build other vehicles for political engagement in this country. There's some structural changes that have to happen that take us forward in a way that allow more voices. We leave too many votes on the table, not just as a party, as Democratic Party, but just as a country. There's too many people that are eligible to participate in this experiment of democracy that don't. We have to ask ourselves why they don't and what we can do to remedy that. And that is invest in people, touch people on the local level, and ramp up our engagement and have policies that actually speak to the concerns of folks, or folks will just divest from the process, which they have.
Let me ask this question. Is it policy though? I mean, I happen to believe in certain things.
Right.
And I know that you believe in certain things. We have a core belief system.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking yesterday with one of our guests. His name was John Lesiotis.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lesiotis said that it's not just the message. Let's call the message the policy. It's also the messenger. And so he said, well, we've got this tremendous activity by Senator Cory Booker, followed by an amazing speech by Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. And I think they touched all of the right chords of the things that were wrong and were transpiring in the government. And John said, but it's the messenger. The question I have for you, Diallo, is whether or not you or even myself or anyone else is the right messenger. And John Lesiotis said it's probable that the messenger we're looking for has not stepped forward. Now, for me, that's clouded in a lot of stuff. These thoughts that we advance are authentically our own. We'd like to think that the message that we give is ours. I have just about 2 minutes left. Your thoughts on the message versus the messenger?
So I think it's a combination of both. You have to have the right messengers to go into the right communities to have the right conversations. And I think too often times we get caught up in one messenger, one message, and we don't do the work of hyper localizing that message and messenger in a way that resonates with the communities. If you look at Fred Hampton as an example of a messenger that was able to transcend communities that look like him to bring people into a conversation about what their best interests are, there was change that was created. And, you know,
original Rainbow Coalition. The original
Right.
Rainbow Coalition.
Exactly. Look at what your father did with the Rainbow Coalition and how his message resonated beyond. It was resonating in Appalachia, just like it was resonating in central Chicago, right? Or in Washington, D.C., or in Philadelphia. Those are the things that we need to think about as a party to diversify our messengers and also do the work that actually touches people, because it's how we communicate with folks is also very important.
Diallo, thank you for joining us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me.
When we come forward, it's Reflectivity with Gina Towns. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is signing an executive order to protect immigrant communities during federal immigration raids.
The irony that I am going to sign an executive directive to help the city family understand how to protect the workforce and Angelenos from our federal government.
Bass is also seeking information on where current detainees are being held. Former President Obama is in New Jersey tonight for a Democratic fundraiser, his first since the 2024 election. The event is hosted by Governor Phil Murphy and his wife, with DNC Chair Ken Martin and others also attending. And rapper Kanye West is facing new claims of sexual battery and sex trafficking from his former assistant, Lauren Pisciata. She says he fired her in 2023 after she refused his advances. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tennis legend Venus Williams, who turned 45 last month, was given a wildcard invitation to play in the DC Open in Washington, D.C. The tournament, which kicks off July 21st, is the first event for Venus since she played in the Miami Open in 2024. Major props for Venus for still having the passion to play and for giving organizers of the DC Open an attendance boost. Having Venus on the lineup is certain to bring out more fans. Venus, who turned pro at age 14 in 1994, has won 7 Grand Slam titles in her legendary career. The Dodgers will try to snap their 6-game losing streak tonight at San Francisco. The Angels are at home tonight against Arizona. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds. 60 minutes of sports chatter with some flavor. Take this number down so you can join the conversation. 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. And I thank you, thank you.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our host in this hour, with her experience and skill set, Gina Towns, tries to make a difference for people wherever she goes. She expresses a goal of building strong communities through various media platforms, ministry, hard work, and authentic storytelling. After winning an academic scholarship for Miss Black Teenage World to attend Hampton University, Gina interned at the Norfolk, Virginia ABC TV affiliate. At the major area newspaper, she pledged Delta Sigma Theta sorority and graduated cum laude before beginning her formal career as a public affairs representative with Patrick Media Group in Chicago, Clear Channel, where she was soon promoted to assistant director. This past May, she received her Master's of Arts degree in theology from Princeton Theological Seminary. With a responsibility for public government, community, and media relations, as well as special events, Gina neutralized industry opposition by garnering grassroots community and legislative support. During her tenure, no adverse legislation was passed in Chicago, even amidst an extreme period of volatility. Gina, welcome forward to Reflectivity with Gina Towns.
Thank you so much, Jesse Jackson Jr. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. You have had a wonderful week of shows. You've had a wonderful week of shows.
Thank you, Gina. You helped organize them. I enjoyed Teresa Hord Owens on Monday, her insights from the Disciples of Christ Church, but also the theological underpinning that she offers when we talk about our actions and what motivates us in this space. It's not just politics that motivates us in this space. It is our faith that motivates and moves us into the nonviolent activity of politics. And so we're exercising our faith. And I certainly am impressed with the work that she has done. Her new book, I can't wait for it to be published, Staying at the Table, we talked about on Monday, and we had a grand time.
Absolutely. And just before her in the first hour was Eric Krim III, activist and historian in his own right. I love that he is a millennial, and he stayed over a little bit with Teresa since you brought Teresa's show up. And, that is part of staying at the table as well, that we as generations learn how to communicate with each other, to pass the history on, to ask questions, to give answers, to be patient with one another so that we can move forward. So yeah, definitely Monday, staying at the table was a monumental show. In fact, it's Moving Mountain Mondays. So
Eric was a great guest, by the way.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you invited him on the program.
Absolutely.
There are not many young people whose heads are screwed on as tight as Eric's.
Well, he has a great following, and that just says to me that people are hungry and they are thirsty. And especially in this day and time, this is really maybe not new, because Generation Z and Generation Y have, they've had to watch a few things thus far in how the body politic moves. And now, instead of disengaging, I think there's a push maybe to become a little more active. And there's a lot going on that you've been able to discuss this week. There's a lot even going on today. One of the reasons that I invited Todd Yeary back for reflectivity as we reflect about the week is, there are certain things that happened during the week, or certain comments that were made that I always want us to be able to reflect on Friday. And I want to help people to pick out what podcast, if you don't have time to listen to every podcast, here's one you may want to take time to listen to. And Todd is with us today. And so if I can change this banner so that Todd Yeary, who, as you say, Jesse, has 1 foot in the pulpit and 1 foot in the courtroom. And I think Todd even said
both feet in reality.
So we'd like to welcome Todd, and he can join us.
Todd, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Absolutely.
Todd,
can
my
you hear
brother,
me?
how are you? Yes, sir, my brother. We sure can.
Right. Listen.
Hi, Todd.
What's happening twice in a week? This is too much excitement for one dude. That's all I can tell you.
Well, certainly there were so many profound things that happened this week. I don't know if you got a chance to listen in, but I know that you were on Wednesday, and I think you heard Johnny Mack one day last week. And so the profoundness of what's going on as we talk about the World House and all the members that live in it, about justice and the ministry of Jesus. And one of the things that I was hoping Jesse would hone in a little bit more with us is what it's really going to take. Because what I like that you said on Wednesday was that it's great for us to continue to have conversations. But what is it that we're going to do in this hour? Because we keep having things done to us, even like today, where the Supreme Court is now going to take up the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So I don't know. We can start right there.
We have about a minute and a half before the break. So if I can get us to the break, I'd love to hear Reverend Yeary express himself in a broader context. One of the things that I found fascinating, Reverend Yeary, and I'd like you to touch upon it, was, okay, we're voting. We're going to go through this activity in 2026, right? We're going to go through it again in 2028. But we're voting, we're winning, they're winners, they're losers. But I don't feel that as a nation, we're getting any closer to each other. These elections are not ending and allowing people to serve in the interim. It is as if something within us as a nation, as brothers and sisters, has died. And the inability to hold that together is a factor in the longevity of the nation itself. I'm profoundly worried about that because there are always winners and losers. Will the Democrats win? Will the Republicans take it back? But we are a deeply divided nation. And I want to speak with you in the next half an hour at with Gina's permission, as to whether or not we are building the kind of bridges necessary to build one more perfect union. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Reflectivity on Friday with Gina Towns and Dr. Todd Urey.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind: to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my two sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-687-7979. That's 800-687-7979. 800-687-7979.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33, and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome to the Jackson Jr. Show. On this Friday, we discuss reflectivity. We reflect upon the week with our special guest, Gina Towns. Gina, our very special guest today is Dr. Todd Urey. 1 foot in the pulpit, 1 foot in the courtroom, but both feet in reality. Gina, you have Dr. Urey.
All right. So, Todd, let's talk about when we left before the break. One of the statements that you made was we're going to have to stop talking about it. And we have a lot of talking heads right now with a lot of great things that they're saying, but people don't know what to do. And so there may be some sort of a deafening silence with some leadership that can move us forward. And one of the things about that, and I think this was Johnny Mack who talked about inserting fear into the conversation.
Dr. Urey, I think I need you to unmute your mic.
That's always the trick. Maybe it's part of the conditioning about you're a little paranoid about, open mics, hot mics, all of that. So
Definitely that.
So look, always good to be with both of you. And we have a lot of conversations offline about what's happening in real time. And the question about talking has a profound meaning, not just in terms of political discourse, but even in terms of how we understand the order of the world, worldview. Speech is part of the creation narrative. Speech is part of the gospel introduction to Jesus Christ. John's gospel says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God, and there was nothing that was created without the Word. In African philosophy, the word we often know is nomo, right? The spoken word. How we converse about a matter informs what actions we take to address the matter. And so conversation is critical. But when fear is inserted, it's inserted so that you will remain silent, right? And remaining silent is often a right that's exercised when you're looked upon with potential criminal charges. You have the right to remain silent because anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. And so it's in that context. We've criminalized speech. We've criminalized expression. We've criminalized dissent. And all of this is in a moving sort of way. I saw the clip that was shared. We were looking at it earlier, that being at step 9 of a 10-step process that's moving us to a very difficult place in our history is largely because we've lost the ability to have discourse. There's a lack of discourse in the Congress. There's a lack of discourse, even quite honestly, in the church, in religious spaces. And so I think a lot of it is the fear, not so much that what I say might not be heard. I think there is this fear that whatever I say, I'm then held accountable to. And so if I don't want to be held accountable, the best thing for me to do is to remain silent. And so I think that's kind of where we are, but I was taking notes. I got my pen here because y'all are talking deep stuff, so I don't want to miss any of the questions. But talking is key. And if just real quick, Jesse, to your point, that feeling like we're not getting closer together, that there's this kind of wedge being forced upon the body politic, if you will, and that something within us as a nation has died, I think is key. And I think it's tied to this. In Baltimore, in the area today, there are ICE raids at a local grocery store, trying to see who's going to be taken. And so when we think about this notion, right, we just had the 4th of July, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people, they said men, they meant men, we've made it people, are created equal and are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This notion of having a place in the conversation is key. And so if I'm not a person, I can't be a citizen. Even now, if I'm a citizen, they're challenging the integrity of my personhood. They're deporting everybody. It doesn't matter whether you were born here, shipped here, kidnapped here, nationalized here, whatever the case may be. Everybody is vulnerable. And so we can't get to community. And that's I believe, is by design of where our politics have actually devolved, with the endorsement, by the way, of the complicit silence of religious entities and institutions.
One of the things that Jesse talks about a lot is the power of words. And you struck me and struck a chord within me when you said that in the beginning, the Constitution really only referred to men. But then we see it progress. And then when Diallo was on in the last hour, he said, you know, people get upset by the word progressive. And I think Atiba Madian was on earlier this week talking about titles that we assign to one another. But the truth of the matter about the Constitution, because of the amendment process and the gift that the founders left to us, they planned it that way. They intended for the Constitution to be chronologically and theologically progressive. So the power of words, you know, means a whole lot to us right now. And we just kind of throw them everywhere.
Well, the Constitution is really the culmination of a dialogue, right? It is, we had a conversation. This is what we talked about. This is what we've agreed upon. And we now say we will codify the outcomes of our conversation such that this conversation has some grounding. Not that it gets locked in time, but it is certainly an acknowledgement of discourse throughout time, the amendments, the Bill of Rights, right? Those are codifications of conversations. The problem is that this government, I would argue, even regardless of party of recent, as we saw with kind of the Democratic process on the primary side, when folks were trying to figure out would President Biden run or not, so we don't like discourse. We don't like discord. And therefore, unless you say what I want to hear you say, I'm not going to give you the microphone so that you can speak your piece. That's the problem. We're too hypersensitive that somebody's going to say something that we don't like or don't agree to or with. And therefore, every conversation starts with a disclaimer.
I would add that that it's easy to isolate the American experiment by looking at the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, and then the Constitution on September 17th, 1787, and the subsequent Bill of Rights, and the struggles to add subsequent amendments. But against the backdrop of all of human history, particularly written law, from ancient Egyptian civilization through the ancient Greek civilization, through the ancient Roman civilization, through the Byzantine Empire, up until the Renaissance, that the American experiment, while it's easy to isolate, is such a grand idea that for the first time in human history, the people, against the backdrop of all of the governments, have some say in the processes where they govern. Now, within our system, we all know that we've had to fight to have a voice in that system through the amendment process. And to Gina's point, it really is the genius of the system. But Todd, I would like to argue that there has been no better system in human history for mass participation, quite like the American system, even though it has kicked us in our asses real good for a long time.
Yeah, I'm with you up to this point. I don't quite get to that end point until I see how we handle where we are. I think this is the tenuous test of whether or not the credit that we are inclined to give, simply because we've seen so many other failed models in other parts of the world, this being a relatively young constitutional republic that operates by a democratic system. This is the most poignant test of the survival, probably more so than the Civil War itself. The Civil War was clearly about an economic frame of self-interest that was expressed politically and religiously. We would even argue denominations split over the issue of the enslavement of human bodies. But this is the one that goes to the fabric of what we the people means. The reason I think it has so much resonance with us, with folks we engage in, and they're not all necessarily peoples of color, but people who have been historically excluded, women of every shade, every race. we all wanted to just be a part of the people club. Some folks got to be people by design. Others of us got to be people by revision, by changing the document that makes for inclusion, right? We had to push for some stuff to happen.
Right. I am a man. I am a man.
Look,
Memphis,
I am a man, and the sisters are saying, I am a
somebody.
womb man.
Yeah.
You know, and so, Sister Gina, that was for you right there. You know,
Absolutely. And I was just getting ready to say, and everything he said, I told him to say while we were at home, and he's just saying what I said. I mean, I can imagine that as they were going to the convention to hash these things out. And you look at, some of the women who are consequential to, before they, got a right to vote, to influencing. I mean, we can go back to Lydia if you want to, as she spoke with Paul. We can, look at Deborah sitting under a tree, which brings me to a little bit of a segue there, because we were talking about the power of words. And so that is not just a part of our civil society. It is also a part of our moral society. James tells us that with the tongue we set a fire. And so that certain words that have become buzzwords or code words in this, and I'm going to bring up one right now, culture. We don't like this culture. And I find that culture has been assigned to a specific people and a specific genre of society right now. And so I don't even know how we really get past these code words with the dog whistles and just begin to talk to each other, except for just to do it.
Yeah, we do it, right? And the our issue is not the do. I think we've got do down. I think it's the it that creates angst. Right? I'm sitting here as you're talking with my pen. Ontology. I'm writing down the framework of worldview.
Okay. Well,
and I'm gonna get it. We may have to. I'm a little older now, so there's always one. If you got 5 ingredients in a cake, let's just say I'm always an ingredient short because I can remember 4, and until I can figure out what that 5th one is, I'm afraid to put anything in the bowl because I don't want to create a mess. So, but to the point about who gets to participate in this larger conversation, whose voices matter. That's why representation is key. The reason a representative form of government is the framework is it was really designed to give those who had no voice presence and participation in a process that was more inclined to exclude them. That's why the different caucuses matter, right? That's why they're coming at this right to vote, because if you take away my right to engage in a process of critical evaluation of who's going to represent my interests, who's going to speak for me when the meeting happens, because I'm not going to get an invitation, then if I can affect that, we now get to control, we being those that will be invited to the party, control what they ultimately wanted was not only the movement where you could go bodily, but who's going to control the money. And so these budgets matter. We just saw a moral document passed immorally that's going to have an immoral impact on Lottie Dottie and everybody, except those who are at the very top 1%, right? That's the challenge. And then they try to tell us, oh, but you got no tax on tips and, more of a child tax credit, and you should be happy and just go away. That's not the conversation. And so we got to have those tough conversations, but we got to have them at a table where the table's level and everybody can have a seat in the place.
You're listening to Reflectivity on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Gina Towns. Our very special guest in this hour and for this hour is none other than Dr. Todd Yeary. He has a law degree and a PhD. He's a seminary professor but he's also a practicing lawyer and a practicing minister with a congregation in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, more of Reflectivity with Gina Towns.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Rep Jasmine Crockett made a surprise visit to a closed-door House oversight interview with a former Biden aide, defending Biden's mental fitness and criticizing President Trump.
I think it is important to stand there in solidarity.
She says it was important to support Biden allies during GOP probes and noted Republicans were not showing up despite calling the probe a priority. WNBA star Angel Reese says former NFL quarterback Robert Griffin III is lying about talking to her inner circle. Griffin claimed people close to Reese told him she hates Caitlin Clark over media comparisons, a claim Reese denies. Griffin has doubled down despite backlash. And Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania will pay $12,000 to settle a racial discrimination lawsuit from former corrections officer Benita Huey. She says she was fired in 2016 after reporting harassment for being black. The county claims her firing was over job performance. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tennis legend Venus Williams, who turned 45 last month, was given a wildcard invitation to play in the DC Open in Washington, D.C. The tournament, which kicks off July 21st, is the first event for Venus since she played in the Miami Open in 2024. Major props for Venus for still having the passion to play and for giving organizers of the DC Open an attendance boost. Having Venus on the lineup is certain to bring out more fans. Venus, who turned pro at age 14 in 1994, has won 7 Grand Slam titles in her legendary career. The Dodgers will try to snap their 6-game losing streak tonight at San Francisco. The Angels are at home tonight against Arizona. Tomorrow night at 7 here on KBLA. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough for Out of Bounds. 60 minutes of sports chatter with some flavor. Take this number down so you can join the conversation. 1-800-920-1580. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay, yay!
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
An official message from Medicare.
I turned 65 this year. I knew it was time to figure out Medicare, and I had questions, like when to enroll and how to enroll. So I went straight to the official source, Medicare.gov, to get the facts about Medicare. I found answers to all my questions, and I'm ready to get started. And so can you. Just go to Medicare.gov to get the real facts about Medicare.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Reflectivity Friday with our special guest, Gina Towns. Gina, welcome forward to the Gina Towns Show on Fridays.
Fat Meat Friday.
Fat Meat Friday. How are you, Gina?
I'm doing well. And part of reflectivity and the reason why we do it is so that we don't sit around and mull over things, but rather we reflect, learn to discern, and how to move forward with some activity.
And joining us, our very special guest, Dr. S. Todd Urey, 1 foot in the pulpit, 1 foot in the courtroom, and both feet in reality. Dr. Urey, I was asking Gina during the break, why does this feel like this is our last election? If we have an election, it doesn't feel right. The National Guard in major blue cities across the country. It just feels like if he invokes the Insurrection Act, we're all going to be part of some kind of military jurisdiction or military protectorate until he finishes doing whatever it is he's really doing.
Yeah, you take me back with that question to an old show when we were kids. Do not adjust your television sets. This is not.
Do not attempt to adjust your radio.
Yeah, this in your imagination. Because you are a student, or you're both students of history, not the revisionist kind, but the actual kind, you begin to make associations between what you are sensing and what you've studied. And so there's a close proximity. There's a reason why there should be a visceral response to having the National Guard deployed by the president to the urban experiences of cities across the country. Why? Because we've seen this movie before. We've seen what happens when the government pushes back on the demands of the people to try to stifle a conversation around what kind of nation will we be. So the president says, I can send the army where I want to. And just so you'll know, I'm going to have a big parade just for me. Doesn't matter if no one else really comes to see it. It wasn't for them. It was for me. The reason why you feel like this may have been our last election is that's really the goal. We're running tests. Can I get the Supreme Court to endorse my arbitrary use of the military without having to disrupt my active duty resources so that I can reach past any state executive to activate the militia. Now, when we activate the militia, which is primarily when I was in the National Guard, the first thing we learned was about crowd control. There's certain methods you use. They escalate in terms of their intensity. It should give us a visceral reaction. We have the memories of dogs and sticks, billy clubs, butts of weapons being used to punish those who were only trying to find a place to express their personhood and their citizenship right. You're not missing it. And one of our mentors in Black psychology, who's now an ancestor, the late Dr. Joseph White, says, if you are Black in America, in order to survive, you have to live with a healthy sense of paranoia.
James Baldwin said that to be born Black or to live Black in America, it is impossible not to wake up every single day in a state of rage. Gina?
Let's reflect on this for a second. I think we are of a generation who knows a little more firsthand because we were raised by the people we were raised by. That being aunties, uncles, grandparents, and parents who did the walk, the marching, who experienced the dogs, who experienced the water hoses, who experienced having to go through the back door to come into anywhere and not being able to go into certain places at all. I do remember as a child not being able to go in Woolworths on Broadway in Gary. I used to look in the window as my mother and I would walk past, and I would want to get a grilled cheese and a vanilla milkshake at the counter, but we could not sit at the counter yet. And that probably was around 67 or 68. I may be 2 or 3 years old or whatever, but it's a memory, and it's a memory because somebody said, I can't, and I needed to understand why I can't. But what we do have is all of the generations that are assembled right now in this larger generation have not had to do the business of what it's going to take to really push back against this. And so I know we do talk, and that's why, I am posing what I'm posing here. Even as we think about Hakeem Jeffries and his filibuster, he called out people who had said that they would not vote for that bill because of the harm and damage that it would do in their districts, in districts who were not of color. But those people went ahead and voted against the interest of their own people. In the 11th hour, there were 12 who kept writing letters. And then there were 4 who could have abstained or voted against the bill in a John McCain moment. So what do we do about that?
One, I think it's a larger sign of the angst that Jesse, you just mentioned, that the mechanisms that keep what we are concerned about from actually happening are not functioning. The checks on executive authority and overreach, which must come from the co-equal branches of government, have abdicated their duty to keep the executive in check. So the Congress is not passing a values-based budget, at least not on behalf of the government of, for, and by the people. They passed a self-interested budget that is tied to 2 components. We're going to put more money in the military, and we're going to pay off the political class that matters most, and those are the elites. The rest of y'all figure it out, and the way we're going to pay for it is we're going to make you sicker, we're going to make you poorer, we're going to make you less educated, we're going to impose on you a responsibility if you're poor and you want to keep your health benefits, you going back to the field. Well, I would just remind folks, the field program that they're trying to go back to didn't come with health benefits. Let's just be real clear. And so when Hakeem the minority leader he calls him out. Got it. But if you're talking about it only in the abstract and we don't personalize the experiences of the people in those districts. I had a conversation several weeks ago when this dialogue was first going on. And I suggested to folks who work within the democratic process that they needed to do something. And I said, go take a picture of everybody in these places where these folks think that this problem doesn't reach, and let them tell them with their own words, I am somebody.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Reflectivity Friday with our special guest, Gina Towns, who is our regular contributor, and our very special guest, Dr. S. Todd Urey. When we come forward, a final question or two, and then some closing thoughts by Gina Towns. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least likely to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Oh, Downy the rinse change. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Fights odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in this, our final segment of Reflectivity on Fridays with Gina Towns. Our very special guest, Dr. S. Todd Urey, is with us. I just want to comment about Leimert Park. Right across the street from KBLA is one hell of a Jamaican restaurant with some red beans and rice and some jerk chicken that will blow you away. Now, they're not paying for this advertisement in Los Angeles, but I just want you all to know it is impossible to broadcast live at KBLA and not stop by and have that jerk chicken. Reverend,
when I come, tell them I want the oxtail. Stop playing with me.
They got plenty of them. Gina, you want to dive right in?
I do want to dive right in. I want to talk about this image here, and it is called the Pledge of Allegiance in the United States. And, you know, Jesse and Todd, we have gotten away from some of the tradition that made the nation. And as Martin Luther King said, you know, I think about part of the reason why he was willing to be respectful and be a citizen of a nation that wouldn't respect him was because we had values in certain respects. And certainly the conversation that people have doesn't allow for that. But I want to pose to both of you who are lawyers and scholars. This says, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. And I want everybody to pay attention right here, under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Let's talk about the under God piece for a second, because that moral fabric for everybody, it is that we have strayed away from some of the values that we have had as a country. And I think some people don't know how to articulate how they're feeling about that. Where does the First Amendment stop and start for people as they feel like their toes are being trampled on, their kids are learning this, that, and the other. So, you know, how do we reconcile that conversation? And one of the things that I said earlier too is, you know, we have to do it. It means that we sometimes have to go where it's uncomfortable to sit down, meet someone, and have the conversation, even if you don't feel welcome in the beginning. But by the time the conversation is done, you perhaps have made a friend.
Because I want to leave Gina and Reverend Yuri the final word, I just want to take my quick shot at it. Before we get to the under God provision in the Pledge of Allegiance, to the flag of the United States of America. When Betsy Ross, an upholsterer, put the first 13 stars on this flag, she did not live through the Nebraska Act. She did not live to see the Missouri Compromise. She did not live to see the California Act. These acts added 6 stars, 1 free state and 1 slave state, to the flag. She did not live to see 11 stars decide they no longer want to be on the flag. And what the process was of putting those stars back on the flag, which resulted in a civil war. And to take this pledge, the idea of one nation under God is largely a commitment to forge through the racial problem that is at the foundation of the nation itself. Now, with that said, I ain't got that much more time. About 7 more minutes. I'm gonna let Dr. Yuri and Reverend Towns here end us on a word of hope. I didn't mean to bring no hopelessness to it, but these flags are hard earned, Dr. Yuri. Yeah. These stars on this flag are hard earned, paid for a heavy price.
And the process of participation to even get to the need for a flag at all was a prerequisite, right? You couldn't come, part of the ratification process, which you had to go back and get a state constitution. There are state constitutions that predate the U.S. Constitution because those were the prerequisites for this engaged conversation. I would note that, the Reverend Francis Bellamy is an interesting character because he was, listen to me, a socialist Baptist minister.
Now, Bellamy, for our listeners, wrote the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wrote the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
He's the author. He's the poet. He's the rapper. That said,
you say he's a socialist.
A socialist Baptist preacher. I'm gonna hang that right there, because it then informs the analysis of what the pledge really means. This symbol, this flag is a symbol. The symbolic representation that carries with it is it represents a people to the republic. The republic is the people for which it stands. And the description of the republic is one nation under God, indivisible, not because we're a monolith, right? But because we're community with liberty and justice for la-di-da-di and everybody. And so in this conversation, Madam Preacher, since you decided you wanted to raise this, we're going to sit back in the amen corner and say, take your text, because if that's laid out, if we're pledging a pledge of a socialist Baptist preacher that we've adopted from his point of view, why do we have such a hard time embracing inclusivity? With that, since you said it's fat, is it Fat Meat Friday or Fat Back Friday? I'm from the country. I need to know
that. Okay. Something to chew on.
That could be greasy meat.
Right.
So that brings us to Dr. King and his idea and his belief system. I mean, I think a lot of people, may be that, but we don't want to call it that. And that takes us back to our conversation earlier about the power of words. Because if you look at the ministry of Jesus and justice, then you can't help but get to one another and what that really looks like. And it's really feeling like a whole lot of not one another right now. And I think people are going to be surprised that they're not included in one another when they think they are at this particular point.
I think that's right. Boy, that's the shortest sermon for hope I've ever heard.
We just want something to chew on.
Tom, let me give you. I wanted Reverend Towns to take us on in, but I'm gonna give
you. Listen. Don't be afraid of Fat Back Friday. I'm just saying. Listen. We come out of a survival tradition.
Yeah.
That even when there is tremendous adversity, we hold on with all that is in our being, hope. And hope is not some deflective aspiration. It is the courage to imagine a better outcome than your current reality can produce until and unless you and I engage. And so if we're not going to be in a creative mode to be able to say, yeah, things are bad. Big Mama would say it's bad, but
that's right.
God is still on our side. It's bad, but we've been through things before. We'll come through this again. It looks bad, but this is where if I had A flat on a Sunday morning, weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. Right? We've heard that from your father, Jesse, time and again. 84, it was dark. We were nuclear proliferation bound, still dealing with trickle-down economics. 88 came around, trickle-down economics wants to pass the baton to what called trickle-down voodoo economics. So you go from Reagan to Bush 41. It was the reminder. And the beauty of this is simply this, and then I'm going to get to my fat back somewhere, is that we got to hold true to I am somebody, because it's the somebodies that make us one nation under God, indivisible. And we demand liberty and justice for all.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns. Our very special guest today has been Dr. S. Todd Urey. Reverend Towns, you have about 45 seconds.
And so these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We will see you next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payne.